Hi everyone, welcome to today's Science versus Bullshit live. Should have probably figured all this stuff out beforehand, but here we are. Let me just do the annoying check that I'm actually live in numerous places. Especially today, because, okay, yeah, we're fine. Because there was that big web outage, which was not an ideal start to the week. And it did make me realize how many of my clients were training this morning, which was good because everyone was like, why is the app not working? And I was like, oh my God, I don't know. And then it turned out it was a problem I couldn't even solve. So sometimes I like when the problem is that big and worldwide that I'm like, well, there's literally nothing I could have done. It's not a mistake I've made, which normally it is a mistake that I've made. So okay, so today's topic is going to be mostly around the impact of saturated fat. I'm just going to get up the Substack so that I can see if anyone has questions. Feel free to fire away. I've had quite a few sent in already, so I will make sure that I cover those. Okay, fine. And I'm assuming people can hear me, but how will I know that? How will I already muted? Okay, fine. If anyone wants to do a sound check for me and just tell me that they can hear me, that would be great. Although I'm assuming that you would say if you couldn't hear me. Let's just go with that. We can hear you. Okay, right. You guys are the best. Thank you. Okay, so this kind of stemmed from a post that I did last week, but it turns out, unfortunately, that the whole idea of putting butter or coconut oil or some kind of saturated fat in your coffee has re-emerged. So this used to be a bit of a trend. People called it bulletproof coffee. Honestly, I think like 8 to 10 years ago, but these things tend to like come back around, and it seems to have come back around partly. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this is because there's a specific product that's marketed specifically to the niche of women that I really focus on helping, which is perimenopausal women, and it could be making their health significantly worse. So last week I had 3 separate women. Now, like, I don't have a huge platform, right? So it's quite a lot to have 3 separate people message me asking about the same thing. The thing they were asking about was their cholesterol levels because they'd been to the doctor and they had high cholesterol. And they were taking a certain supplement, which I am going to name, and I'm more than happy to have a discussion with this person. But Will Powder's supplement is a coffee creamer, and it's like a blend of coconut oil and butter, and maybe some MCT oils in there as well. But my main issue is with the coconut oil and the butter because they are very high in saturated fat. And this is a very real problem, especially for postmenopausal women, because saturated fats like butter and coconut oil, and by the way, coconut oil is like 90% saturated fat, like it's very, very high in saturated fat, increase cholesterol, and they increase LDL cholesterol, which is your quote unquote bad cholesterol. When you are postmenopausal, or for some reason you have low estrogen levels, you will find it harder, or your body will find it harder to clear LDL cholesterol. So plowing in more at this point is like a very bad idea generally. And I mean, at any age, I wouldn't be suggesting that people add saturated fat to your diet. Really, you want to be minimizing it, and you will get some trace elements from certain places. And I'm certainly not demonizing butter. Like if you have a bit of butter on your toast in the morning, that's fine. But you definitely don't want to be like adding unnecessary butter to things that would never have butter in, like your coffee. So I did a post about this, and what was very interesting was the backlash that I got from it. Like there's some really like intense zealot type people out there who like religiously follow the person who sells this supplement, and also like a lot of these quite damaging beliefs. Many people tagged her in the post. Surprisingly, no replies as yet, but again, more than happy to have a conversation about this. And then some of the comments, it was interesting reading them in people's narratives, because there are certain supplements that are promoted where I'm just like, you're wasting your money on this, but it's probably not actively damaging your health. Whereas with this, it's not, it's a cop out to be like, well, each to their own. If it works for you, fine. Or like, I took it and it really works for me, so it must be fine. Like when it comes to LDL cholesterol or like plaque building up in your arteries, which is what is linked to having high levels of LDL cholesterol. And if you want to go more into the science of this, which I'm going to do on EIQ nutrition for our graduates, ApoB particles. But anyway, you increase the amount of plaque buildup, and that's what causes things like heart attacks and strokes. And one of the scariest things, so if people don't know my background, I used to actually work in cardiovascular disease. One of the scariest things about it is it's known as the silent killer, because often your first sign that you might have, for example, a buildup of plaque, or you might be on the way to being high risk of or to having cardiovascular disease, is that you have a cardiac event. So you have a stroke or a heart attack. You can't feel these things build up. So if someone's like, well, you know, I have butter in my coffee every morning, it makes me feel good, no harm done, each to their own, blah, blah, blah. You can't see the damage that you're doing. So it's too much of a cop-out to be like each to their own. Now, if you're otherwise, you know, a really healthy, balanced diet and you're having a small amount of butter in your coffee, again, my question would be just why? Just don't have it. But if you really, really wanted to, for some reason, that's probably okay, as long as you're not eating any other saturated fat sources, or very little, because it's the overall amount of saturated fat that you're getting in. But some people are taking this to like unbelievable extremes. I was sent a video of a woman showing how she managed to consume a whole stick of butter, which is 55 to 60 grams of saturated fat before 11 a.m. in the morning. That's terrifying. Like, that should not be promoted to people. Most women should be aiming to get less than 20 grams, and sometimes even less than that if you already have high cholesterol. So I just see it as like a huge cop out to be like, each is their own, it's fine. It's not like someone's like, do you know what, I really like rap music, and someone else is like, oh, I think rap music is vulgar and horrible and I absolutely hate it. Cool, each to their own. You're allowed your own music choice. Slightly different when it could be actively damaging people's health. And like I said, I'm going to keep the science on this quite brief, but I'm going to do a whole section on this for the EIQ grads. And now, what else did I want to say about this? Now I think about it. Maybe I'll go on to some of the questions that I had here. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, one thing that was asked specifically by Lisa, I think, was really interested to hear this. Having low estrogen, I'll be at work, but I want. Oh, sorry. Okay, right. That question made no sense to me. So basically, I'd put it up in the group and to see if anyone had any questions. And one of them is like, why does low estrogen impact cholesterol, or why is it that you're at high risk? So obviously, there are numerous reasons you might have low estrogen, but estrogen has a protective effect on lipids and on blood vessels and on how your blood vessels work. So on your endothelial function, which is the thin layer within your arteries, within your blood vessels that keep them flexible. So this was actually what I used to study, was the endothelial function. But estrogen has a role to play in that, and it also increases HDL cholesterol, which is your good cholesterol, and reduces LDL cholesterol, your bad cholesterol, and has anti-inflammatory effects. So all these things combined, plus the fact that often when people go through menopause, their fat redistribution is changed to more visceral fat storage, which again increases your risk of cardiovascular disease, means that you're at a higher risk of this anyway. So if you were plowing in a load more cholesterol, that's like a extra bad thing to be doing. And one of the reasons for this is that when estrogen levels drop, you have fewer LDL receptors on your liver, and this slows the clearance of LDL, so you're exposed to it for longer periods of time, and this is what's shown to increase risk. So it's the lifelong exposure of LDL and ApoB particles that increase the size, the density, and the likelihood of you having plaques that build up. And it's when these plaques become unlodged that you get something like a heart attack or a stroke. I think that's what I want to say on that. Right, other questions. Now I've lost them. Okay, Sam, I can't believe that people can have the balls to sell this bullshit. How do they sleep at night? I don't know. Makes me angry as well. Okay, really looking forward to listening back on this as soon as there's so much misinformation saying it's good for you, it's very confusing. Yeah, and this is exactly why I want to do this, because there are people that are like, especially coconut oil had this kind of like health halo around it, but it's actually one of the highest one of the fats that has the highest amount of saturated fat in it, which links to another question I had here actually. I feel like I've been waiting to hear this my whole life. Well, I'm glad that I could finally deliver this to you after you've waited literally your whole life. I'll catch you on replay. I have oodles of saturated fat. And yes, I'm Sri Lankan heritage, so coconut oil is in my veins. How can I turn this over? And is it true that saturated fat is really, really hard to burn? Okay, so it's not so much that saturated fat like would make you store more body fat or becomes harder to burn. It's the impact on your cholesterol and then the impact on your cardiovascular risk. Now, the other thing I would add to this, and this is completely unfair, but is important for you to know, is that South Asians are at a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, even at the same BMI and risk factors as someone who is Caucasian, for example. And so you need to be even more careful about the amount of saturated fat that you're getting in. So I would highly recommend reducing the amount of coconut oil that you're using. One really easy way to do this is to get the spray oils, because you're just going to naturally use a hell of a lot less. Even if it's like, I think you can get them you can get butter, coconut oil, vegetable oil, I don't know, all of the oils come in spray form, and you're much less likely to overdo it on the oil. So if you are going to cook with some kind of oil, it might be better to do that. But I'd be very careful because you're already at a higher risk. So it would be something to consider even more, trying to reduce that. Bex, will you cover whether full fat, low fat, or no fat products are better for you? I need to know whether to have fat-free Greek yogurt is less calories or full fat. I think with these, what I tend to do is choose my indulgences. So there is research to show that when people swap from things like using butter to using a vegetable spread alternative, it has been shown to reduce LDL cholesterol. And I think more with full fat dairy, I'd kind of just choose. Is butter your thing? Are you oh, do you know what? A bit of sourdough bread with butter is literally the best thing in the world. Or are you full fat Greek yogurt is just amazing, but you don't want to have any of it in excess. I don't want people to misquote me here or get me wrong. I'm not fear mongering about certain foods. They're just certain foods that you shouldn't eat in excess. And we've almost gone the opposite way. So I'm not saying never ever have coconut oil. It's the worst thing you can possibly do. I'm just saying don't actively add more to your diet under the guise that it might be in some way healthy, because it's literally the opposite. And I would be trying to reduce the amount that you're consuming and trying to only have if people are tracking calories, try and only have 20, maybe 20 grams of saturated fat if you're a woman, slightly more if you're a man. That sounds disgusting. Yes, it really does, doesn't it? Yeah. Would HRT reduce this risk? Would the risk then return when someone stops HRT? Yeah, HRT will slightly reduce the risk. There's also another risk factor of just generally as you age and become slightly less active, your risk is going to increase anyway. And it's not. So I would say it's extra risky, but it's not oh, before menopause it's fine, eat as much saturated fat as you want. It's even worse to be consuming it. And I think the thing that got me is and all of the people that messaged me asking me about their cholesterol levels and whether they should stop putting fat into their coffee were all perimenopausal women that were struggling with energy levels, and this is why they were doing it. So that's why I'm kind of focusing so heavily on that. But yes, taking HRT and increasing estrogen would mitigate some of the increased risk of things like cardiovascular disease, for sure. But as would, like, your usual just healthy diet and making sure that you exercise and doing all the good things that are healthy anyway. Right, do I have any other? No, I think that's all my questions. Yeah, it is. Those are all the questions that I had. So if anyone else has any more, fire away. Or if not, I will wrap up here because I wanted to only really cover one thing on this and then make it very clear and concise. And I'm sure I'm kind of like preaching to the converted here with, not adding a ton of saturated fat to your coffee. But interestingly, and from that post, I was like, wow, there's a lot of people that are doing this and thinking that it's going to help them in some way and be healthy in some way. So if you know anyone that is doing it, please do share this video with them or this podcast with them. And I think it's just quite sad that anyone that's doing that is probably already really struggling. They're probably just trying to try anything to see if something will work for them. They're probably really invested in getting fit, getting healthy, maybe losing some fat, and then what they've been told to do is like literally the opposite of what they should be doing. I kind of feel the same, but like a lot smaller extent with electrolytes, which for most people, again, like they're not a good thing to be taking. Most people are already getting in enough, if not too much, salt in their diet, and then just like telling people to add more and just randomly drink it throughout the day is just completely unnecessary for the vast majority of people. But it's not really spoken about enough who they're for. You'll just see influencers be like, hey, just came in from my run and now I'm having some electrolytes. And you're like, yeah, well, in that context, it kind of makes sense. But then they're recommending that maybe everybody takes it, or instead of waking up and having a coffee now, I just wake up and I have my element electrolytes instead, and that sets me up for the day way better. And maybe they're high rocks athletes and they need to be consuming that because they're sweating out so much. But for like Jenny, who's like, oh, I listen to this podcast, I really want to get healthy, but I work an office job and I try and get to the gym 3 times a week, and like that's most of the exercise that I do, and maybe I try and get 8,000 steps a day. Like, you don't need to be adding salt to your diet. Like, most people, statistically, most people are already consuming too much. And if you already have high blood pressure, which again, nobody checks, they're just like, yeah, everyone take electrolytes, even though it could be a really bad thing for you to be doing. It's silly. I'm taking tamoxifen at the moment for cancer prevention. Would that make me low estrogen category now? Yeah. Yes, it would. And the same is true for Lisa and her question. So yeah, that would just be an extra consideration. And again, I think and I know I have like a bias because anyone who is working with me or has worked with me throughout breast cancer or post breast cancer, like, it is actively already really interested in their health, but they normally generally have a really good diet anyway because they're so focused and they're so appreciative of life and health, and will do everything that they possibly can to put them in a position where they could either be in the best position to fight cancer or reduce their risk in any possible way that they can. So I tend to find that they're very adherent and already have great diets. But again, like, sometimes it can be those people that get caught on these things because if you see something online, it's like, hey, this will make life even better for you, or it'll be even more healthy, or there's some kind of like health halo to it. Then you're like, oh, great, I'm already fully bought into being the healthiest version of myself I possibly can be. Yes, I'll do that as well. So just be careful, run any supplements that you're thinking of taking. I mean, you can just message me about this, but anyone else as well, before you put your money, and also it's not just money, it's like your health. This is why I do the whole science versus bullshit thing. Yes, I want people to stop wasting money on stupid supplements they don't need, but even more than that, like, I want to make sure that people aren't actively damaging their health by, following advice that's not good advice to be following. I will leave it there for tonight, and I will be back next week with another topic. If anyone has things they want me to cover, please do send me it on Instagram at ESG Fitness, and have lovely evenings. Bye.